Hello, Professor Madison here. This ostensibly is week one devotional, but since it's our first time to really talk, to meet, I'm going to use it in addition to a devotional to tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm going to expand on what I wrote you in my email about a week ago. When you read that, you saw, by the way you see me with my glasses, I'm almost always wearing my glasses. I think there's, as I've experimented, there's a little bit of glare on that. So I'm going to wear the glasses for this class. I think it's probably likely that going forward, whenever I add a video to the course, I'll have the glasses off so that the glare is not there, so you're not seeing reflections. But anyway, I just made a career change here almost half a year ago, almost 6 months ago. This would have been, in the fall, this would have been my 30th year at Bethel College. In my years at Bethel, I served for 12 years as the director of the admission office, where a lot of the marketing experience that I've had was gained. Led our staff and our team through 5 different complete marketing initiatives, which included advertising, media. Of course, back then, a lot of emphasis was on printed material, so a full complement of marketing material that was print-oriented. Public relations was part of that, lots of presentations, and so forth. Those were good days. The college grew from about 500 students to over 1,500 in that period. Then after 12 years, the former president of Bethel, Norman Bridges, came over and asked me if I would head over to the Academic Services Office to assist our dean and become the first associate dean in academics. Within a couple years, I was also directing the registrar's office. Enjoyed that immensely and did that for 8 years. And then about 10 years ago, our director of play and giving in the advancement office. The advancement office is where the college raises money, where we solicit alumni and friends of the college to help support the mission. My focus was primarily in the area of administrative support, and a lot of my external work was done in the area of play and giving. That's charitable giving instruments like wills and charitable gift annuities, and then also, a significant amount of my work was trying to encourage people to put Bethel in their estate plan. And so made a lot of presentations on that and worked at the website and other areas of marketing to encourage our friends and alumni to make end of life and more legacy gifts to the college. So that's where I was at. The ground was fertile for me to change avocation. I began finding myself thinking that, I'm just 8 years away from Social Security. Can I make it? It seems like a long time away. So I was beginning to have those thoughts that, after 30 years, was this where I was going to end my professional career? I had served on the board of Hope Ministries. If you're from this area and you've been around a while, you might remember Hope as Hope Rescue Mission. Hope is one of 2 homeless shelters in our community. There's Center for the Homeless, and then there's Hope Ministries. Hope is a faith-based organization, and having been on the board of directors, I had a pretty good feel for what Hope was about. And I began, there are some new initiatives developing in our community. Again, if you're local to South Bend, you know that the plight of the homeless, how are we going to serve them, has been a hot topic in our community ever since the tent encampment under the Main Street Bridge back in 2016. And a lot of things have been happening in the background to address the long-term issue of how do we house the unsheltered in our community. And as that plan began to develop and roll out, we realized that Hope was going to play a role not just in what happens in our own building, but also what happens in the community. And I was captivated by that. And the development director at Hope had left for maternity leave, and she was planning to be a stay-at-home mom, so that position was open. Anyway, began a conversation, 2-month conversation, which led to me leaving Bethel and coming to Hope. And it has been a wonderful change in my life. Obviously Bethel is a mission-driven place, but Hope really, really is ministry. And I've been drawn to that. And I have learned so much in 5 years. Not only do I have the job to do, but my spiritual life has been fed at Hope. And I want to share part of that with you. In a little bit here, I'm going to slide the laptop back and try to do some visual aids for you. But let me tell you one of the areas that has most impacted me spiritually, and this is my devotion for the class today. I've grown up in an Anabaptist or Wesleyan tradition. I don't know what your faith background is. I don't know if you've even been active in the church. Obviously, you know that Bethel is a Christian college. Part of our every week is a devotional that I'm going to share with you, and so I'm unashamed to let you know and to talk about my personal faith. I've grown up in the church, again, part of that Wesleyan tradition. And one of the elements of the Wesleyan tradition, we all of us who are people of faith recognize that it's the grace of God that has called us and to Himself and made a way for us to be part of His family. And that's a free gift. There's nothing I can do to earn that. It's been provided for me, regardless of how good or how bad I've been. And that's reality. That's a truth. But within my tradition, there's also been this sense that even though it's a free gift, that there's still something that I need to do, that the things are just going to go better between me and God if I take care of some of the stuff in life. And I want to do my best here to give you a little bit of a visual about this. So bear with me as I kind of move the computer here. I want to move it back, change the orientation here. So I suppose like many of you, I've led a pretty easy life. Not a lot of bad decisions in it. I've been blessed, obviously, growing up in the church. There's not a lot of stuff in my life that I look back on and wrestle with. Again, I've been fortunate, but we all have things that have been, flaws, and let's just call them what they are, sins that have been part of our life. And for a lot of us, our sin is a stack, but it's not necessarily a real big one, but it's still there. And again, in my tradition, here's me over here, and here's God on this other side of that. And I've been saved by grace. I've been made part of His family. I've been redeemed. That's a word within my tradition. And here I am, and there's this stuff that's been in my life, and it's still in my life. There's some areas of disobedience, areas of pride, selfishness, things that we all recognize and deal with. We look at them in their life, and we think, I need to deal with those. Maybe I've been called to be more involved in service. Maybe I've sensed a calling that I need to be reading my Bible more. Whatever it is, there's stuff here, and I'm over here, and I see God as being over here. And the better I'm able to deal with this stuff, it seems like that the better things are going to go with God. That if I can just make this go a little smaller, the shorter that stack of stuff in my life is, the better I'm going to be able to see God. The mountain between us isn't so big. The problem, and within the context of Hope, I see that, the people at Hope, it's not a matter, there's a thought sometimes that, we're all one job loss away from homelessness, and that's just not the case. It's not a matter of having some financial difficulty. It's not a matter of losing a job. That's often a contributing factor. One of the things that we talk about at Hope is that the people who are staying with us, it's It's not that they've run out of money, it's that they've run out of relationships. Within our community, there are thousands of couch surfers. These are people who are estranged from family. Maybe their family's in a different community. They've lost their job. They're living hand to mouth, but they've got friends. There is family. There's some brothers and siblings, parents, friends from work, other friends they know, and they provide a place. And so they'll sleep on the couch, what have you. But for the people who end up at Hope or Center for the Homeless, the things in their life which we have caused them to have some stress and pain, it manifests itself in poor behavior, poor decisions. Just about everybody at Hope, just about everybody at Center for the Homeless has wrestled with or is still wrestling with addictions. That's just common, either alcohol or or drug addictions. There's often mental health issues too, and those things over the course of their life, because of addictions, they've not been able to keep jobs. When they stay with family and friends, what do they do to support the habit? They'll go through people's wallets and they'll take stuff out of the house to sell because addiction is a powerful thing. And so they burn up these relationships. And someone says, you can't stay here anymore. They go to another place and they can't stay there anymore. And eventually they've gone through every relationship they have. And it's because of these behaviors that just are part of their life. They're learned, they've been intensified because of the trauma and the pain and the addiction. 9 out of 10 of the women who are at Hope have experienced sexual abuse. Just about all of them have been in abusive relationships. Almost all of the people at Hope have abandonment. It may not necessarily be physical abandonment, parents, fathers, mothers who have left, but oftentimes people are present in the home, but there's been no emotional support, no love. All they've heard are words of anger and disrespecting and diminishing in their life. You'll never amount to anything. And so they've just been beaten down. And they come to Hope and they've got these addictions and they've got this mental illness. And for them, their stuff, their pile of stuff, it's so big. When I'm looking at mine right down here, I can see over the top of it. And we often feel like, I can deal with that. There are things I can do that are going to eliminate or reduce or shrink that barrier between God and me. But the people who are at Hope and other places, the people with pain and abuse and addictions in their life, that pile of stuff between them and between God is so big, they will never be able to shovel enough of the crap away from their life that they can see God. They always feel like this is between them and there's nothing they can do about them. And what's been so moving to me, and it's made such a difference in my life, is one of the tenets of Hope is the concept of grace. That it's not that this stuff is between me and God. It's that God has brought himself on my side of that stuff, my side of the sin in my life. The people at Hope will never be able to get rid of all the bad behavior and the bad things that have happened to them. But what they learn, what we teach, what is reality, is that God is on my side of the sin and the stuff in my life. And there's no behavior, there's no addiction, there's no abuse that can separate me, that can keep me away from fellowship with God. And regardless of how bad that is in the past, God still loves me. There's nothing I can do, present, past, future, that's going to keep him from loving me as I've accepted Christ as my Savior. It doesn't mean that there's behavior I work on. It doesn't mean life works when we live life according to God's tenets. whether you call them the commandments, when we try to put the fruit of the Spirit in our life, however you think about that, obviously, when we live life the way God planned it to be, life goes better. It's just the way it is. But not living that way, but having faults, wrestling with pride and anger and those kinds of things, doesn't keep me from God. And so it's this profound sense of grace that I knew, that I've always accepted, always understood, but recognized in light of our residence at Hope, that there's nothing they can do to get on God's side. But the great news is that God comes on my side. And that's my devotion for the day. And I trust that for those of you who are people of faith and follow Christ in your life, that's an encouragement to you. And if you're someone who's still contemplating whether the gospel makes sense or not, I trust that this would be a source of encouragement to you. Just to kind of wrap a bow on that, I've talked about the residence at Hope. Any given night, we have 95 to 100 individuals living in the building. We've got beds for 35 single men, 16 single women, and we have 18 apartments for families. And about 12 of those are reserved for single moms. It's a great place. I'm blessed to be there. God is working in my life, teaching me many things, and I'm excited about this. Okay, that's our devotional for week 1. And there's some things other things I've learned at Hope. I'll probably weave that into some devotionals to come. But again, great to have you in class. Looking forward to our time together.